Welcome to Always Real Talk. I'm Kwame Brown. We are happy to be joined in the studio by Robert.
He was very quiet, but assertive when the time came.
My first job was sweeping floors at Midtown Barber Shop on First and Kennedy.
He saw the things that were happening in the city.
I saw that my family was not doing any better in the best times of the city than we were doing in the worst times. Government could impact people's lives if they were focused on regular people like me. Me and my family have had the same love for this city that so many people have, and we want what's best for the city, like so many people here in DC want. More and more, we're seeing an absence of leadership on the federal level, which really increases the responsibility for local leaders. So we have to be not only passionate, but good at what we do. I'm fighting for your family as much as I'm fighting for mine. I will keep fighting every day to focus our government on you. I'm asking for your vote so we can finish what we started. I'm Robert White. I'm a husband, father, Washingtonian, and I'm a Democrat running for re-election at large.
Welcome to Always Real Talk, Robert.
Appreciate being back.
Hey, look, it's always good to have you in the studio. You're not a stranger. You've been here before. Appreciate you coming in. I mean, clearly now it's a little bit different because now you are campaigning for re-election here in the District of Columbia. I must say, very impressive because no one ran against you as on the Democratic side when during the primary. You ran unopposed. So I think it's important for our viewers to know that in the District of Columbia, you can vote for two people at large in the general election. I've had an opportunity to interview so many of the other candidates running, and every single one of them said that they are running for the open seat as the independent seat that was held by Council Member David Grosso. Now, one of them said that they are looking to replace Robert White, which is interesting. So, Council Member, you have 22 people that are running in this election. They can vote for two. And why you and why now?
I'm finishing up my first term on the council, Kwame, in 4 years. We have done a lot. I told people that I was going to focus on racial equity, on improving our schools, on housing, and on jobs. And that's what I've done for the past 4 years. I've introduced over 40 bills. Have gotten past some landmark legislation on early childhood development, on expanding voting rights for incarcerated felons. And I've been a strong and clear voice on education in our city, somebody that parents and teachers can depend on to stand up for them. So I want to continue this work for another term. With us facing the coronavirus and all the impacts it's had on our communities of color, we continue to need someone who's going to be a strong voice on the council, and that's what I've done. That's what I want to continue to do.
Oh, great. Now, in saying that, I want to get back to the importance of some of the things that you accomplished, because you started off and you said, hey, when you first ran, you said, these are the things I want to do. These are the things I want to get accomplished. We all know that you're a family man, and your wonderful wife and your beautiful family, and that education is extremely important to you. And, some people understand that and some people don't, right? And not that they don't want to understand it, it's just they're just not living it, right? Now, and I do believe it's a difference when you are an elected official, not saying that you're better or worse or than anyone that doesn't have kids in the school system. But I do think it's a little different when every day you're getting your kids ready for school, you're thinking about the elementary school, you're thinking about the middle school, you have to play the lottery, and then you're up and you're legislating, right? Which means that you are involved, so you see all the different things that's going on because you're at the school all the time.
That's right.
And other parents are talking to you. So, anyone that's a legislator that has kids in the school system, it's very clear that there are people that are asking you to change things that could make things better for not only your kids, but everyone's kids. And I know that you're very vocal about that. Walk us through how you see yourself from an educational perspective, from a father and a legislator, and how do you balance the two?
Yeah, I've been one of the most vocal members of the council on the issue of education. And because of my personal experience, my priorities are very clear to me. I come from a family that has struggled in this city, but because of a strong education, I've been able to go to college, go to law school, and have a strong career. So when I look at the kids in our city, especially students of color, and I see that even now We only have about 25% of Black children testing on grade level compared to 83, 85% of their white peers. I have to say that there's a problem. And anybody who says to me, no, there's not a problem and we're doing everything right, I say you're absolutely wrong and foolish. And unless we admit that we have an issue, we can't fix the issue. So I've spent 4 years really trying to make sure we are focused on the problem, the inequity in education in our city. And I do have two little Black girls, and my expectation is that we have a public school system that is going to educate them in a way that's going to give them more opportunity than I had. Anything short of that is a failure on the part of the city.
Well, I want to address the elephant that's in the room and things that people are talking about. As a dad of two, both of them have now graduated, so therefore they're no longer in the system. But I still get the alerts on my phone, and I still, we always get that, right? You're at the store,
Right.
wherever you are, people that were former PTA members that still got their kids in the system, they're talking to you, right? And they're talking to you a little bit differently because they're talking to you from their heart, not that because they're like, you know what I'm talking about, right? You get that feeling, right? When people are
That's
talking to
right.
you and they're like, you know what I'm talking. They're not talking to you as a council member. They're just saying, hey, we're parents. Go do something about it. But the elephant in the room is that this is the Washington Post did an endorsement, and they didn't endorse you. They endorsed two other people, which I think that might have been the first time that they didn't endorse a Democratic uh, uh, person incumbent on the council. And you put out a statement and said that they mentioned, of course, that your stance on education and what you wanted to do was troublesome for them. Do you buy that?
I do buy it. What the Washington Post has is a theory on education. What I have are two little girls who are going through our public education system and data that shows that we are not doing the right thing by students of color in our city. And anybody who is okay with where we are is setting our kids up for failure. So I'm not going to get with the program. I hope that the Washington Post will get with a different program at some point. But I'm going to continue to stand up and be a voice for these kids in our schools because somebody has to do that.
Well, let me say, I've been there with the Washington Post, someone who worked for them in college, cleaning the bathrooms and hallways. But I want to say the same thing because sometimes, people want you just to stay out of it altogether, even if you have great ideas. And it wasn't like that before, right? I remember when other people start talking about education, it was okay. But now it seems to be something that's a problem. I talked about making sure that my bill I introduced, made sure that every kid took the SAT or the ACT, right? I just thought that you should not graduate from high school and not take the ACT or the SAT because your chances of getting into college, if you never took the SAT, was probably slim because they asked you for your SAT scores, right?
Right.
And so we had to mandate that because then the chancellor wouldn't do it, right? And I got criticized for that. So I say all that to say, even with arts, music, PE in every single school, increase of AP courses, making sure that everyone took an AP courses, increasing the number of them. So at least there were schools with no AP courses in them, right? So I understand where you are, and I appreciate you being upfront and just saying, hey, look, I got two kids, two daughters, and I got to do what's right for them. And sometimes as legislators, you do. But that hasn't seemed to stop you at all because you've racked up an incredible amount of endorsements. I mean, you have your fellow colleagues that have endorsing you, Councilmember Anita Bonds, Councilmember Alyssa Silverman. I see you have SEIU, a number of different SEIUs that are behind you. The AFL-CIO is behind you. The Jews United are behind you. The Sierra Club's behind you. Greater Washington is behind you. I mean, I can't name them all because it'd take us to a whole show to name all the people that are actually behind you and support you. Why is it that you have such a broad coalition of people that are supporting you?
Well, people see my work. So real people and organizations that really are focused on working people and the folks who are being pushed aside and falling through the cracks in this city, they see the work that I do. I do practical work. I do advocacy work. I do what it takes to represent the needs of the city that is here now. The people who elected me to protect them, to stand up for them, those are the people that I prioritize. And I believe that they feel it. They see it in the work that I do. And so I'm very proud to have labor, to have a lot of progressive organizations, to have many of my colleagues behind me. And I think it speaks to the work and the integrity of the work that I try to do every single day.
I mean, I looked up and you even have someone who's not a council member that's going to be a council member that's going to, well, if they win, they'll get sworn in. Janice out of Ward 4, she's endorsed you. Like, she said, boom, boom, I endorse Robert, which is, it's like, whoa, she's not even on the council yet, but she's, hey, I endorse him. But I want to get right into some things that make a difference in the lives of people every day. What, if in fact you are reelected, what are the top 3 things that people can see that Councilmember Robert White is going to focus on if he gets reelected?
The 3 things I'm going to focus on in a big way and really increase in priority because of the coronavirus. I'm going to continue to push on housing, but really starting to pull more from our housing folks, from the private sector, from nonprofit developers, because we are losing the battle on housing here in the city, and we got to bring more people to the table. That's something that I've done particularly well in my first term, is bring more people to the table. We have to do that on housing. Schools are going to have to work for our kids, even during distance learning. I am of the belief that we are not going to be back in school in any real or substantial way through the rest of this school year. But our kids still need to learn despite any gaps that exist at home. So that has been and will continue to be an intense focus of the work that I do. Finally, our economy locally has suffered a huge punch from the coronavirus. But truth be told, we already had some soft spots before this year. So I really want to work to tighten our economy, because I'm tired of seeing our local small business owners fall through the cracks. And I'm tired of seeing folks who are working for these businesses left without jobs. So we have to tighten our economy. This is something I've been working on for the past several months, really strengthening the supports to help our businesses through this pandemic. And that's something that I'm going to continue to do, because we're going to need this help. We're going to need this focus for the foreseeable future.
Well, I want to jump right into a couple of the items that you laid out as your passion and some things you're going to continue. I know it's a bunch of stuff that you're going to fight for. Got that. But you named 3 that were important to you right away. One being the housing. And clearly we understand we need more housing stock. We need more affordable housing. We need more workforce housing. When it comes to the Committee on Facilities and Procurement, because you chair that committee, and that committee, it clearly does the land disposition, or the it plays a part of all government property that's being released, right?
That's right.
What do you see yourself doing or changing to ensure that before your committee lets it out of the committee and votes on it, that you get the type of answers you need and commitments you need to make sure that affordability is tied to it? Because they can't move any government property without you.
That's right. What I've been working to do, the Department of General Services has at long last, and I give credit to the current director, Director Anderson, has really created a database of all the DC government properties. But what that database shows is that we have a substantial number of properties that we are not using. What I want to do is prioritize those properties for housing, which is one of our most urgent needs. So before we dispose of property, we have to examine how we can use it for nonprofit development for affordable and workforce housing. Second to that, we have to analyze its utility for our nonprofits. These are folks who are struggling as well to remain in our city, but they serve an important role. They fill gaps that government does not or cannot fill, but they're getting priced out of the city as well. So we have to do that 2-level analysis before we dispose of any government property going forward. And that's something that I'm working to do.
So from your committee surplus and stuff, so before you surplus any property, you have a checklist of things that you want to make sure is included before you release it. Is that what you're basically saying?
That's right.
Okay. When it comes to education, and I know it's near dear to you, distant learning is something that you brought up. Let me tell you, there are a lot of moms, I call them super duper duper moms, and dads that are home, right? And they're working, which means they're working on their laptop. At the same time, they're a mom. They're working as an employee or as a executive. They're the science teacher, the math teacher, the social study teacher, the PE teacher. They're everything, right?
Right.
And distant learning is clearly going to be here. Are there some things that you've been looking at or thinking about that you see can be improved to help those at home? And let me be clear, those are people where you have parents that are engaged, right?
Right.
And we kind of forget that there are a lot of parents that are not engaged and they do not have the capacity to provide that type of learning at home outside of the computer that their kids are actually on. Have
That's
you
right.
thought through that and what that looks like and some of the things that you may change as we move forward?
Very much. It's not lost on me that as much time as my wife and I put into homeschooling our kids and the challenge that it presents, there are a lot of families that don't have that level of support at home. That is why we do have to return to some in-person learning for children with special needs and for children who come from families whose parents cannot or will not help them engage in learning. But the school buildings have to be safe. And from a facility standpoint, that is something that I've been working very hard on and been frustrated with the lack of information that we've gotten. So I've found myself in the place of trying to be the advocate from the council and making sure we have a space for those students in schools who are not able to learn at home as they need to. For the students who are learning at home, we have to continue to bridge the digital divide. Folks know it, but I've been having conversations with our service providers to make sure they are ready to step up because it's one thing to make sure everybody has internet. It's another thing to make sure they have the bandwidth for multiple kids or kids and parents needing devices to run devices at the same time. So the challenge is still in front of us, and we recognize now that we're going to be in this situation for a while. So we have to fill those gaps with the digital divide, making sure that we have sufficient internet and bandwidth in every single home, because you're not going to be able to do distance learning sufficiently without that.
Well, I want to move on to your third subject and something that's clearly important to so many people, and that is the economy. We all know we've heard the budget numbers from the CFO. We've heard that there's been some changes, but yet there's still, a long way to go. We know that there are restaurants that are closing every single day. We know that there are small businesses, they can't pay their leases and they're pretty much out of business. Some of them think that, hey, if they don't get this grant, that they might, too, not be able to make it through the holidays. You mentioned that. And I want to jump right into something that's hot and it's a topic now, and that has to do with procurement. And we've read the city paper articles. We've seen articles out around the Office of Contract and Procurement following the law of the District of Columbia. But most importantly, which is heartening to me, is that somehow now they're trying to figure out how to go around it by saying it's not clear. And what I can't understand is that if we have a mayor who is committed to local businesses and making sure local businesses participate, then we have directors that report to her. Why are we having all these issues with contract and procurement with them actually following the law? And you chair that committee now, and I will say now because you're now the new chair of the committee. Walk me through what you're seeing and what you plan to do, given your passion for making sure that this economy thrives with local businesses participating in that ability to move forward.
So we found out through a lawsuit, a ruling recently, that our procurement practice in the district has been to figure out the CBE or local business participation in contracts after a contract was awarded. And frankly, we don't have enough leverage at that point. That was frustrating to learn because that is not what the law says. The law says that that businesses who are submitting bids to the district have to identify their CBE partners before their bid is accepted. I think the law is abundantly clear. I've read it. I had a hearing and covered this issue with the Office of Contracting and Procurement just a couple of weeks ago and made my position clear. But the other position I made clear is that I will not support anything that waters down our CBE laws. These laws were created for a reason. And if there are issues with the law, then we have to fix it in favor of our local businesses. We can't be spending taxpayers' money and ignoring the local businesses that are putting into that pot. Our obligation in the district and for the district government has to be our local businesses. So I wrote about a year and a half ago, a law to bill to tighten our CBE law to get payment more quickly to our businesses, to close some of the loopholes that allow outside businesses to take advantage of our CBE laws, close as many gaps as I saw. I didn't realize this one was there. So now we're going to have to make sure that we close this gap. The only problem here, though, Kwame, is that the law already is clear. So what we have to make sure we do is have OCP follow the law.
So let's, in full disclosure, people know I'm a big CBE supporter. People know that, I'm a CBE. It's not out there. So let's put that to the side, right? What I'm concerned about is that we all know what the law is. The law is not gray, right? We're changing the law, or we're trying to rewrite the regulations to make it clear what the intent is when everyone already knows what. It's not one person that does not know the intent of a CBE law in the District of Columbia, right? I don't know anyone. The only people that does is the people at Office of Contract and Procurement. And what people want to know is why, because what basically happened is that you had people who said that they didn't understand the law and wasn't following the law, right? The law requires you to identify whoever your CBE partners are when you get a contract because you agree to use them, and they want to make sure that happens because in the past they just didn't do anything and no one ever cared and they got a contract and they kept moving. So that law was changed. Got it. They didn't do that, right? So now you guys are going to change the law to make it clear that that is the law. Why does that person have a job? That's what I want. I want to know why those people are still receiving a paycheck when then thousands and thousands of DC residents and businesses are going out of business. But these individuals get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Most of them probably have direct deposit, right? And they've been trained, so it's not like they don't know and no one's ever told them. Why do they have a job and everyone else is going out of business?
Well, look, we need to make sure we are stepping up for our residents. For whatever reason, for the entire existence of the Office of Contracting and Procurement, they were operating in a way that was not in accordance with the law. I have to believe that some of the procurement specialists were taught the wrong way to go about business, but now it is incumbent upon the director of the agency and the mayor to make very clear that all procurements are to follow the law. So if we start to see procurements come down that are prioritizing CBEs, I'm going to be happy about that. And what I encourage is that the mayor will give that directive to the Office of Contracting and Procurement and that they will follow the law. But for my part, as the oversight chair, I will make sure of it because I review every single contract that they send out.
Well, it's a couple of things. The mayor has been very clear on where her position is that they should utilize CBEs in the law, and every year they hold the book up, the green book from DSPLBD, and say this is what we did, this is what contract and procurement did, this is the law we have in place, and everyone's following the law, right? So it's very clear that's what the mayor is, right? What's not clear is that OCP has not been doing it, and they continue not to do it, and they continue to have a job. And what happens is we're going to change the law so we can make it clear just to them, just to those people, that everyone else knows that's the law, but somehow they can't figure it out and they challenge it. So we're going to make it clear for them, and then we're going to let them keep their job while other businesses are going out of business, while other businesses have to close their door, while other businesses are filing unemployment, while other businesses are having to file bankruptcy. They get to keep their jobs. And I think, and this is just my opinion, is that people are like looking sideways at that. Like, it's not right that they get to keep their job and not follow the law. But let somebody else not follow the law, they will lock them up, right? For any little thing. Let you not follow the law and get a speeding ticket. You're going to have to pay that speeding ticket. Let you follow the law for whatever, it ain't going to happen. But the people inside the government, they get to do it. They get to abuse the system. They get to not follow the system, and they get to keep their job. And that's just, you don't have to say nothing. I'm not asking for your response because you've already said that you're going to look into stuff and you're going to react. I have to ask you this question. I mean, are you willing to ask for people to be fired that have blatantly not followed the law and found ways to get around the law? Would you be willing to call for those people to be fired?
I've done it in the past. That's part of my job. Every part of this job isn't fun, but I do work for the people of the District of Columbia, and that's something I never forget.
Okay. I just wanted to put that on record. Some people are like, you didn't, they'll text me, you didn't ask him would he fire? No, I just asked him. He said yes, he would definitely fire him. And sometimes people think, you know, hear the CBE. These are local businesses. The whole country's talking about buy American, right? That's what all these candidates, we're going to buy American, we're going to produce American jobs, we're going to do it for American. Okay, well now people are saying locally we want to, you know, produce local jobs, and then we have people in the government that has the authority, right? And then they just don't do it. To me, they shouldn't be getting a paycheck from any of the taxpayers. They shouldn't be. But I want to move on because your campaign and what you've been doing has been energized. I mean, your signs everywhere. People are, you know, no one's talking about they're trying to, you know, unseat Robert White. So clearly you are doing a great job. Your team is doing a great job. I have, you know, hidden with my 5 questions that I definitely have to ask you because we ask every single candidate that's on here. It's a yay or nay or yes or no, agree or disagree, no conversation, no debate. School choice, you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay. Eliminating the gun laws in the District of Columbia.
We got to eliminate it. Well, I'm sorry. They have to remain tight.
Taxing the wealthy.
Right now, so we can make it through this pandemic, we have to. A modest tax.
Mayor Bowser, she doing a good job?
At some things.
And defund the police. Agree or disagree?
That there's a lot to unpack there. We absolutely have to redirect MPD's budget to more appropriate places so that we can push down crime. Increasing MPD's budget every year is not making us safer. There is a smarter way to do this.
It's only agree or disagree. You can. You're a lawyer, right? So you can say, you know, I can. What is that thing when they say, are you guilty? Guilty with explanation? Is that what they call it, or something like that?
Well, defund the police means something different to different people, and I want to make sure I'm talking to people.
Absolutely. All right, and then you know, the election is when?
Election is November 3rd, but people should have their ballots now. You can still register to vote until October 17th and still get a ballot in the mail. Early voting starts a week before Election Day. So I encourage people to get out there and vote. And I do remind people that I'm number 14 on the ballot. Number
14. Wow. It's number 14. Democrat, though. You're the only Democrat on the ballot.
Democrat.
Right?
I'm the Democratic nominee for D.C. Council at large.
Well, there you go. We have Robert White, who is running for the D.C. Council at large here in the District of Columbia as a Democrat. Make no mistake about it. I endorse Councilmember Robert White. Has a, you know, don't have a sign in my yard, but I support him. Always supported him in terms of what he's been able to accomplish. We need more people like you on the council, making a difference, fighting hard, and we have to make sure we hold everyone accountable to make sure that we not only close the gap, but we also increase in the areas that we have to make sure that everyone has a quality education, no matter what zip code or ward you live in the District of Columbia. Council Member Robert White, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me back, Kwame. Good to see you.
And you're welcome anytime. So if it's always real talk, you know it's going to be real.
I'm Robert White. I live in Ward 4. I'm a 5th generation Washingtonian and proud to be in DC all my life. Historically, I like to vote in person and like to bring my kids, but since COVID-19, I've been voting by mail. Voting in person to me just seems more traditional, and now that I have kids, I like to bring them with me so they get into the exercise of voting. But now that we are dealing with the coronavirus, I vote by mail. For me, it's important to vote in every election because elections matter and local representation in particular matters. But right now, our country is at a cross section. And if we don't all show up to vote, then our voices won't be heard and we will have less say in the future of our country. I'm voting because my voice matters. Yours does too.